Okay, colleagues, you're most welcome this morning, and I will try and go through the presentation as best I can. I will say two things at the outset. The first is that the documentation is still being finalized, including the gender appendix. And that is really in the context of us having taken legal advice to try and make absolutely darn sure that when we apply the gender quota, it's as watertight as we can possibly make it in terms of legal challenge. It's about getting it right, okay? So we're almost there with that, but we've been taking legal advice to try and get that as right as we possibly can. No point in doing it in a half-baked way. The second thing then is just to say that this is a briefing session. I'll do my best to be as accurate as I can. I've read this documentation, I don't know many times at this stage. But the definitive version is what's in the documentation. Okay, just to be clear about that. We're all only human, okay? So if I say something and the documentation appears to contradict it, please highlight that, but it'll be the documentation that's right, not me. But I'll do my best not to say anything that contradicts the documentation, okay? I'm also joined here by the Vice President of Equality and Diversity, Professor Anne Scott, and also by the Academic Secretary, Caroline Loughnane, and we have our backroom team down at the back there, Sinead and Joanne, who have been putting this stuff together for us, okay? This is the second of 3 sessions on this campus. We've another one coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We've also been asked to organise a session for, is everybody wanting to listen in on the session? Is that what it is? They're all phoning you? We're also organising one for colleagues in Shannon, and also just to note that on Thursday the 23rd of February between 2:30 and 4 p.m, 2 external experts from Oxford Brookes University will be organising a session preparing an application for promotion. Okay, and it's just a general session on that, on how you prepare a good application for promotion, and that is open to all who feel that they might be putting in an application, and that is in G065 in the School of Psychology. Okay, so over in the Arts Millennium building here. Rachel, yeah?
That session also be recorded. It's just that that's half term for anyone who has school-age children. It's a difficult time for...
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Can we organise that, Joanne, yeah? Okay. We'll check with the externals that are delivering that they're happy to do that. But if they're happy to do it, yeah, we'll record that. Okay? Yeah. It is half term, isn't it? That's next week. Yeah. I'm just realising. Yeah, okay. All right. So, let's get into this. So, an introduction to the scheme 2017. The context is that the last senior lecturer promotion scheme was 2013-14. We got 104 applications. 31 people were promoted when we had gone through everything, 3 of them on appeal because of mistakes made in the adding up, the calculating. It wasn't just adding up, it was, anyway, 3 on appeal, 28 originally approved. The proposed 2017 scheme is an evolution of the 2013-14 scheme. Assessment is by academic peers in a peer review process. The scheme is comparative, so there's a fixed number of places and a rank ordering of candidates. Okay. The inputs that we've taken to the 2017 scheme include the recommendations of the Senior Lecturer Promotions Board 2013-14, the recommendations of the Appeals Board in 2013-14, feedback from both successful and unsuccessful candidates. And some of you may recall I did engage extensively personally, but we also took written feedback with a lot of successful and unsuccessful candidates in 2014. External expert gender impact assessment of the 2017 scheme, and that was done by 2 external experts at Oxford Brookes. Gender impact assessment of the scheme done internally by the Vice President of Equality and Diversity and by the Equality Manager. It's been approved by UMT, by Academic Council and Údarás na Hallscoile. The scheme is being reviewed by legal experts, and in particular the whole proposal to apply the gender quota. And also then we had the consultation period in January, where we got a lot of feedback from colleagues right across the university, and some of that has led to some small changes in the scheme as well. Key enhancements. So on this occasion, rather than simply two different scoring models for lecturer A and lecturer contract type B, or university teacher and lecturer as it was in 13-14, and then a single ranking produced, on this occasion we're having two separate schemes, one for lecturers, stroke lecturer B, and one for lecturer A stroke university teacher. We're streamlining the process so there's no interview stage this time. We're removing the external assessor reports. 2 external advisors have been added to the board as process overseers, and they will be looking to make sure that there's consistency in the process. They will also be looking at things like consistency of marking. Greater external representation on the appeals board, strict word and page limits. Last time around it was noted afterwards that some people had submitted 30 or 40 pages, some had submitted as many as 200 in their applications, so we've got stricter limits there. And they will be applied, by the way. If you're asked for 30 pages and you submit 35, the reviewers will stop reading at the bottom of page 30. They'll simply stop reading, okay? And if you have any crucial information on pages 31 to 35, well, I'm afraid it simply will not be counted, it will not be regarded. That will be the end of that. The application form will be fully online, and actually the electronic aspect that you can put in Word with certain boxes, if there's a 500 word limit, then it will simply not accept word number 501. That will also be built into the system. Information sessions such as this for prospective applicants, and then the recommendations of the board ratified by UDRIS. And one of the key changes in that regard is that the number of places is fixed in advance. Okay, there's no looking at the applicants and deciding where the cutoff line should be. It is fixed in advance. The only way that it will increase on the fixed number, and we will come to that, is if it is necessary in order to apply the gender quota. Okay? Eligibility. Lecturers above the bar and university teachers grade 2, whether permanent, full-time or part-time, provided you've been confirmed in post. Okay? And that's if you're on contract A or university teacher grade 2. And then traditional lecturer, or what since late 2015 has been contract type B, lecturers above the bar, same criteria, whether permanent, full-time or part-time, provided you've been confirmed in post. The date of eligibility is 31st of December 2016, which is the last occasion in which we made the quarterly HEA return. And therefore it is one that we were officially required to return to government, not something we could be trying to estimate in between times, okay? The topics that will be covered in this session today: the criteria, learning, research, contribution, the weightings, additional material there, information session dates. This is the second of those, 14th of February. And then the draft timescale, we hope to open in March and have a closing date in May. And then it depends on how the board can do its workings. In an ideal world, it would go to UDRIS at the end of June, but that might not be feasible. Better to get it right than to get it quick. The one thing I'll throw into this in terms of the timescale, as you're no doubt aware, is that SIP2 and IFOOT have referred this scheme to the Work Relations Council, and we have simply asked for a very early hearing to try and get the matter resolved as quickly as possible, one way or the other. So, the objective. The academic promotion scheme is competitive. The objective of the scheme is to promote on the basis of comparative performance. This is assessed according to criteria which reflect the university's educational mission. These overheads are online, by the way, aren't they, John? Yeah, so, don't be too worried about scribbling down every word. You can go into this online after. The criteria for promotion take into account the 3 broad areas, and they are the same 3 areas that were there last time and are there in most universities, to be honest. Learning, teaching, assessment, research and scholarly standing, contribution to school, college, university and community. A minimum of 40% is required in each of the 3 areas to be considered eligible for promotion, okay? With higher achievement in at least 2. Promotion is based on a fixed number of promotional places or rank ordering of candidates based on assessment of applications. So, learning, teaching and assessment. In this category, there's 6 areas that will be assessed, and there they are. Teaching experience and responsibilities, teaching skill and approach, curriculum and course design, development, student support and facilitation, innovation and leadership, professional development and scholarship. Teaching experience and responsibility. Evidence in this category should be submitted by outlining contact hours for a 3-year period. And if you had a sabbatical in the middle of that 3-year period, simply go back 1 year further to get your 3 years, okay? And submitting a teaching portfolio. A standard template and guidelines for the construction of teaching portfolios are available on the KELT website. There's the website. And you should include a brief statement of your teaching philosophy. Okay? Teaching skill and approach demonstrates high quality of teaching, backed up by mandatory evidence from independent student evaluation and supported by peer review, external examiner reports, or other techniques. If you, for whatever reason, documented leave, etc., are unable to undergo independent student feedback, you can submit other forms of student feedback, and you should notify my office. The email address is slpromotion or promotions. slpromotion@nuigalway.ie. Okay? So notify my office in advance of applying if you are going to submit something other than the normal independent student evaluation. Curriculum, the third thing then, curriculum and course design development, experience in the review and revision of existing programs and modules, as well as the design of new modules and programs. Okay. 4, student support and facilitation, availability and approachability to students, providing advice, dealing with particular needs, mentoring and supervision, support of students in placement and in fieldwork. 5, innovation and leadership, identification of opportunities for development of new programs, review of existing course offerings, willingness to experiment and innovate with teaching and assessment approaches, for example. And then professional development and scholarship, and you should show achievement in as many areas as possible, backed up by appropriate evidence. Okay. Independent student feedback, just to say that it's being run by an independent external agency. It was run in semester 1 of this academic year, and it will be run again in semester 2. You should apply for semester 2 by the 24th of February, and I think it's week 9, is it, we said, that it will actually be carried out. Okay. You're asked to submit details of all available modules. An external agency will randomly select 2 or 3 modules per applicant. A random sample of students is selected, and of course part of what's going on here is we're trying to avoid survey fatigue among students. So students will not be asked twice to do this, and the external agency that's running this are looking at it. They're selecting random samples, and whatever algorithm they use, it avoids asking a student twice. They're sent an electronic survey to complete. The agency will collate the results and will send them to you, the applicants, for review. Feedback reports will be sent to the SL board by external agency. You don't need to include them in your application. Okay, so they will be sent separately to the board. Okay, yeah?
I just want to make a comment that I would have some concern that surveying students using online forms is the best means of gathering independent and fair.
We'll come to Q&A at the end, if you don't mind. I'd like to get through the presentation first. Okay? Yeah? All right. So, independent student feedback. You will have the opportunity to comment on the results of the independent student feedback in your teaching portfolio. So this isn't just a blank check to the students. You do get the opportunity to comment on that. And please note those points, and I made 1 or 2 of them already. In line with best practice to avoid survey fatigue, on modules that are taught in teams, only 1 lecturer's teaching will be surveyed per module. Candidates don't have the option of selecting which modules you prefer to have surveyed. And if you have concerns about feedback given or response rates, please address these in your commentary in the teaching portfolio, and the board will take those into consideration. Okay? And there's that point simply, if for whatever reason you're not able to undergo feedback due to documented leave, then you're required to include the outcomes of feedback processes conducted by yourself or otherwise independently conducted with your teaching portfolio. And my office should be advised of this. Okay? You're also required to provide a copy of your approved teaching schedule for the 3 academic years prior to the year in which the application is made. As I say, if you've had a sabbatical in one of those 3 years, then simply go back 1 year further to have 3 years included. All undergraduate and postgraduate teaching duties for the current year and 2 prior years, including supervision of minor dissertations, should be set out in this section. Supervision of major dissertations, PhDs, and this is important, and there is an important point about not duplicating information. Okay? Major dissertations are counted in the research section. So PhDs and research masters. But taught masters, minor dissertations, and so on, that is in the teaching session. Okay? Now, sometimes you're going to have to make a call on this stuff, by the way. You've got information that could fit into 3 different boxes. You make a strategic call. Get a colleague that you trust to look at it. And it might be that actually, if some area is particularly dense with information or has got loads in it already, and you've got something in there that could fit in somewhere else where maybe what you've got is a little bit thinner, then you make a strategic decision to transfer it across there. But the key point is don't use it twice. You won't get credit twice for the same thing. Research and scholarly standing. So senior lecturer contract A, your research and scholarly standing is understood to refer to research and other forms of scholarship associated with research-informed teaching and with keeping up to date with developments in your discipline and or research as traditionally conceived in the discipline. Okay, so it's not an expectation that you will have research as traditionally conceived in the discipline, but you can include it in there if you're on a lecture A. And I know that some people on lecture A, formerly university teachers, do indeed have a very good research profile. So include it in there, okay? Lecture contract B, research as traditionally conceived in your discipline, including publications, PhD supervision, your research and scholarly profile, research funding, and research impact. The intention of this section is to allow you to set out your outputs across a range of research-related activities. Publications. And if you see Appendix 2 of the scheme, you'll see the details of the types of publications to be included. You're asked to list your publications by category, and I think on the back of the first session, we're making 1 or 2 minor amendments to the categories. I'm not sure people knew, for example, we're clear about the difference between chapter in a book or book, chapter, and article in a book, which were 2 different things, but we're amending that slightly on the back of the feedback. So anyway, look, we'll have that as accurate as we can. Applicants to contract A are asked to list all publications, not by category. Please note, the form includes only a list of your publications. Applicants must include their IRIS profile to provide full details of the publications. You must put your IRIS profile in as part of your submission. Okay, so make sure it's up to date. Okay, and take out any duplicates in it. I mean, really, tidy it up. Okay, I know it's going to be a wee bit of work, but we ask you to do that anyway as employees of the university. And if you can't get it up to date when you're hoping to get promoted, when can you? To be honest about it, you know? Secondly, research and scholarly standing then. So postgraduate research students, research funding obtained by you, research and scholarly standing profile, contributions to postgraduate research, research impact, research resources, and other professional circumstances. So the IRIS profile, you must include an up-to-date IRIS profile. It's the only source from which the board will review your publications. Okay? Anything you put in the form itself will not form the basis of reviewing your publications. Your IRIS profile will. It can be exported from your IRIS profile as either Microsoft Word or Excel or PDF file. We don't care. Just export it from your IRIS profile and have that IRIS profile up to date and tidied up. Okay? Publication should not be duplicated in there. Contribution to school, college, university, and community. In this category, you're asked to describe the contributions you've made to all of those and to wider society, a community understood as the profession and or wider society. Okay, professional organizations, academic and disciplinary community, language and culture, civic organizations, NGOs, broader educational domain. And to demonstrate excellence in this category, you'll be expected to demonstrate significant contribution and or leadership as per the application. Okay. You will be asked to provide details across 4 areas, your individual profile across 4 areas: contribution to school, to college, to university, and to professional, industry, discipline, wider society. 2 significant case studies demonstrating your contribution are requested here. Please note, candidates should highlight their own role on projects. Your own role, okay? You're applying for yourself to be promoted, not for the team you worked with to be promoted. Now, teamwork plays well in any application, but highlight your own role within that. There is plenty of evidence, by the way, from all over the world that men are very good at highlighting their individual role, and very often, even when they're a team, making out that it was something they did all by myself, as the song goes. And women are more likely, even when they played a very significant role, to highlight the team achievement. In an application, it's you individually applying for promotion. If it was part of a team, highlight the team, but highlight your own role within the team. Emphasize that. Don't bury yourself in the team, I would say to the women, based on the available evidence, and to the men, don't bury the team. Okay? That's really important. Okay? It is really important. An application form is not a place to be modest. It's not a place to be hyperbolic either. Okay? Candidates should not repeat examples used elsewhere in the application. Made that point already. I'm making it here again. Don't duplicate material. Make a decision about where it's the best fit, where you think it will play best for you in your application. The key focus of the contribution section is on the following. What was involved? Why was it important? What was your specific role and the impact you had? And what was the outcome? Okay? Now, your specific role and the impact you had might have brought the team to a successful conclusion, and highlight that if it did, but don't bury your own achievement under the team. And then sample case studies from the last promotion round will be available to view at that website there on the Senior Lecturer Promotion Scheme 2017 website. Are they already up, John? Are they already up, those sample case studies? No? When are they going up? Over the next couple of weeks. Okay, they'll go up in time for the scheme to open anyway, put it that way. Other information required in the final sections of the application form. Candidates are asked for 1, additional information. This is an optional opportunity to provide an additional 500 words of any further information that may be relevant to your application. And secondly, you're required to provide the names of 3 referees, 1 internal, 2 external, and to respond to one of the questions that was that came out of the consultation in January. Yes, it can be an emeritus professor. It can be anyone who is a scholarly referee that knows your work, okay? Including retired colleagues. So, the weightings. Senior Lecturer Contract A. Candidates have the opportunity, so that's the default. And let's be clear, there is a default for each of the 2 categories. If you don't indicate otherwise, then that will be the default. So for Lecturer Contract A, it's 200 for teaching, 50 for research, 50 for contribution. If you think that your application will gain from taking 50 marks out of teaching and putting it into either research or contribution, you can do that. But you can't break that 50 up. Okay? So if you wanted to go 150 teaching, 100 research, and 50 contribution, or 150 teaching, 50 research, and 100 contribution, you could. You can take 50 out of teaching and put it into either of the other 2 categories. But you must take it as a block. You can't take 40 out, you can't take 30 out, you can't take 50 out and put 25 in each. None of that. Okay? Single block, 50. If you indicate nothing in terms of the change, then that default will apply. Okay? Lecturer Contract Type B, the default is 100, 100, 100, and exactly as it was in the last round, you can take 1 block of 30 marks out of any of those 3 categories and put it into any of the other 2. Okay? If you indicate nothing in that regard, then that will be the default that is applied in calculating your final score. Okay? Now, we're asking that you indicate clearly your intention. Okay? We're consulting with the board, in fact, on whether we will ask that that be indicated on a separate form that the board only gets to see after it has done the scoring. Okay? So that actually the board is then calculating simply the raw scores, and once they've calculated all the raw scores, then the weightings apply. That might be a useful measure, okay? And maybe I'll take some soundings today on whether you think that would be a good idea or not. The minimum threshold for promotion requires applicants to demonstrate accomplishment in 2 of the 3 areas with a score of 40% in the 3rd area. Said that already. Weightings are recorded only for use in this scheme and are exclusive to this process. They don't amount to what the weighting should be in your work allocation model or anything like that. That's really what we're saying there. Okay? The checklist, completed application form, up-to-date iris profile, your teaching portfolio, and the names of 3 referees. Okay? Total page limit for supporting documents is 30 pages. This doesn't include the application form. Your 30 pages include the teaching portfolio, which may not exceed 8 pages, plus a maximum of 15 additional pages and appendices. Your iris profile, any additional information such as a short CV, if you want. Any pages beyond 30 will not be considered by the board. And don't embed links to websites in your application form. Okay? They won't be checked. Nice way of trying to sneak in another 50 pages of supporting material, but it simply will not be looked at by the board. Okay?
Is this uploaded online?
It will be uploaded online when the scheme opens. Okay? 3 referees, so 1 from within the university, 2 from outside NUI Galway. They'll be asked to comment on your performance in all 3 activities, teaching, research, and contribution, insofar as they are able to. Okay? I mean, you know, one of your external referees might be somebody that you only know from research context, but you never worked in the same institution. If that's someone you choose to put as a referee, that is your call. Okay? But they'll be asked to comment, insofar as they can, on all 3. A copy of your application form will be sent to the relevant head of school, who will be asked to complete the head of school form. If the head of school form has held that position for only 6 months or less, the applicant may choose to have either the previous head of school, and we have had some head of school changes in the last few months, so I think this is entirely appropriate. You can choose to have either the previous head of school or the current head of school complete the form. And you must indicate which head of school in section 3.2 of the application form. The current head of school will be the default choice if a candidate fails to indicate a preference. If the head of school is an applicant, the form will be sent to the relevant dean of college for completion. No score attaches to the head of school's form. It's used by the board to confirm information and evaluations. And it is standard. All of the other 6 universities in the Republic include a head of school form / recommendation in some shape or form. Okay? The Senior Lecturer Promotions Board will consider all applications for senior lecturer. In summary, the Promotions Board is comprised of 20 members. The President and I are ex officio members. We're coordinating the process, doing things like this, making sure the documentation is right in the kickoff. We're not involved in the assessing of candidates. The documentation will be assessed electronically, and I have set it up that the President and I don't even have the permissions. Okay? So it will be the 18 who are involved in doing the assessment who will have the access. There are 2 external advisors to the board who are senior academics from outside the university and whose role is to provide oversight to the process. So they'll read the applications, they'll be looking to make sure that the correct procedure is followed, they'll be looking at things like consistency of marking, etc. But they won't be asked to actually score the applications themselves. One is from a humanities background, one is from a STEM background. Okay? And they're both very senior academics in universities elsewhere, one here in the Republic and one in the UK system. Then 16 members of the board are internal academic peers from a broad range of disciplines. They're responsible for assessing all the applications. They will undergo various training. They will have undertaken, if they haven't already, unconscious bias training, gender equality training, The panel is completely balanced, so there's an ABL side, Arts Business Law side, which has 4 men and 4 women on it, and there's a STEM side, which also has 4 men and 4 women on it, and there'll be 1 male and 1 female co-chair of each of those subsets. Okay. The governing authority has approved a fixed number of 32 promotional places for this promotions round. Comparative HEA data for the 7 universities was used to determine the appropriate number of places. The national average of staff at senior lecturer level is 21.5%. Here at Galway it's 16.4%. To bring NUI Galway into line with the sector, 32 promotional places will be approved. That takes us to very slightly shy of the 21.5%, but we are about 1% ahead of the national average in the number of professors, both personal and established, that we have. So overall, we will actually be slightly ahead of that national average in terms of staff above the level of lecturer when this round is completed. We should be. Places will be allocated between lecturer A and B in proportion to the eligible pool. And we've just been trying to finalize that documentation over the weekend and those numbers over the weekend. And allocated between arts, business and law, science, engineering, medicine constituencies in proportion to the eligible pool as well. So in a sense, there's ABL, STEM, lecturer A, lecturer B. If you see what I mean. Okay?
The eligible pool of applicants or the pool?
No, the pool, eligible pool. Okay, not the pool of applicants, the eligible pool. The advice that we got in that regard was that that would then avoid the scenario where people were getting a lot of applications in just to try and enhance the chances of their side of the house being successful. Yeah, okay. So it's fixed before the scheme even opens, what number of places and how they'll be divided. Okay.
And will you tell us the numbers?
Yeah, we should have that sorted today, actually. Yeah. Okay. In line with the recommendations of the University's Gender Equality Task Force, adopted by the governing authority last May, the university will implement gender quotas for SL promotion, moving to a flexible cascade model over 2 rounds. A quota of 40% will be applied in this round of promotions. And that applies only to women, by the way. It's not 40% each way. The key issue here is that it's the underrepresentation of women that is being addressed. So if, for the sake of argument, in the initial scoring, it transpired that 70% of the successful applicants at that stage were men and 30% women, then we would introduce the measures that we're currently trying to refine with the lawyers to get percentage of women up to 40. Okay, the percentage of the original number, up to 40% women. If it comes out as 70% women and 30% men, then that's the result. Okay? It's not underrepresentation of men that we're trying to address here. It'll be applied across the total number of all promotions. So given the 4 subcategories, ABL, STEM, lecturer A, lecturer B, it's not 40% in each of those 4, it's 40% across the whole. Okay? And as I say, we hope to finalize Appendix 7 in the very near future. In fact, we hope to be sending it to SIP2 today if possible. The recommendations of the Promotions Board will be ratified by Údarás na Hallscoile. The candidates will be informed by me of the decisions of Údarás na Hallscoile and be given the feedback from the board by me in a letter form. Promotions will take effect from the 1st of the month following the date of approval of promotions by the governing authority. You'll get a feedback report from the Promotions Board. I will forward that on to you. And it's then the line manager, normally the head of school, or where the applicant is the head of school, it'll be the dean, who is tasked then in preparing a developmental plan with unsuccessful candidates based on the feedback received. And successful candidates don't get off the hook either, because between Chris Curtin and myself, we'll be following up with you on how you're going to live up to the promises you made. Okay? Those are the information sessions. I mentioned already the general session. It's with 2 colleagues there, Simonetta Manfredi and Lucy Vickers at Oxford Brookes University, 23rd of February, 2:30 to 4 on in G065, School of Psychology, the Arts Millennium Building. And to register for the information sessions, visit the website there. So we hope to open the scheme at some point in March, although obviously the WRC business and the decision of Uterus will be final there actually, but we'll see how that proceeds, but we'll try and get that sorted as quickly as possible. May would be the closing date for applications. Assessment, as I say, it's better to do it right than to do it quick, so it may well be over the summer in the end, and then results hopefully in the autumn, followed by development planning meetings with the heads of school.